All right, this is the video for Algebra 2, Unit 2, Lesson 2. So in the previous lesson, we were focusing on equations that were in what we call standard form, and that was what we were working on previously. In this lesson, we're going to turn our attention to the other type of equation, which is slope-intercept form. And so slope-intercept form is just another way of writing the equation for a linear function. And really what they're focused on in this lesson is understanding how to convert from standard form into slope-intercept form. They kind of go through this whole process of like kind of giving you like a formula, but to be completely honest, I'd rather focus on process than to focus on some kind of like formula aspect. So I'm going to do a few examples and just kind of give you the basic kind of way to do this. So again, we're trying to get from standard form to slope-intercept form. A couple of things to note. In standard form, we're looking at the coefficients of the terms, and we have the a, the b, and then we have the constant term c. In our slope-intercept form, there is a coefficient on x, and there is a constant term, but there is no coefficient on y, and that's going to be the main difference between the two. So again, we're looking at slope-intercept form, and that is y equals mx plus b. So the basic process for going from from standard form to slope-intercept form is going to be to do two things. So here, let's use this example. 2x minus 3y equals 15. 2x minus 3y equals 15. So if this was the standard form equation that I have, the two steps that I take to get that into slope-intercept form is the first we're going to call move the x. In other words, you need to move the x so that it is on the opposite side of the equation as the y. So in this case, since I have 2x and I want to move x across the equal sign, I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides of the equation. Now obviously there aren't any x's in the other side of the equation. So when I do that, obviously this is going to cancel. I should have done it quite like that because you can't see this minus. This minus 3y is still there, equals. And then I'm going to arrange the answer so that things fit the pattern here and here. So in other words, I want the x to come before the constant term. So what that looks like here is I'm always going to write the x first and then the constant term. So that's the first step. That's the moving of x. So we moved x so that it's now on this side. You can already see the equation is taking shape. We have y equals x's plus constant. The second step in the process is to divide y coefficient. So I'm going to divide the y coefficient. I'm going to put coefficient in parentheses. So I usually say move x, divide y. So when we say that, we want y to be by itself because that's the way it is in the form up here. So to do that, I'm going to divide by -3. Oops. And I'm going to divide each term by -3. And this is probably could be in some cases the most challenging part of the problem. But when I do that, I know, first of all, that is going to cancel out, leaving me with just y. And then all I have to do is work out these other two. Now, sometimes this can be a little confusing, but a couple of things to point out. You always need to remember if you have two negatives, those negatives, this is going to cancel each other out. So then we're going to have positive 2/3 x. So just make sure you're paying attention to how I wrote that. I went ahead and pulled the x out and made the fraction with the numbers its own kind of unit with the x being multiplied. So this becomes -2 over -3 or positive 2 over 3x. And then because it's 15 divided by -3, that means my answer is going to be negative. 15 divided by 3 is 5. And so that is the slope-intercept form of this standard form equation that we started with up here. So let's do another example. All right, see if they have another one. Yeah, let's do one with a inequality symbol. Let me just make one up. So let's say I had 4x is, or negative 4x, 4x minus 3y is greater than negative 12. All right. So again, we're going to do our 2 steps. First step is to move the x. So we're going to move the x by subtracting 4x from both sides. That's going to cancel, leaving me with negative 3y is greater than negative 4x minus 12. So you can see everything about this problem is the same. I'm not doing anything different because of the inequality symbol. Everything is still happening the same way. Divide y. That means I'm dividing by this negative 3. Lots of negatives going on. One thing I need to remember is that whenever I'm dealing with inequalities, is I need to remember to switch the inequality symbol when you multiply or divide by a negative. That's what's going to happen in this step of the process. So I need you to make sure to remember that. That's a common thing that happens when you're dealing with inequalities. Sorry, let me erase the stray marks. So anytime you multiply or divide by a negative in an inequality answer, this symbol is going to switch. Now it's going to go that way. So let's finish up the problem. So that's going to cancel all out, leaving me with y. Negative, negative, that's going to be positive 4 over 3x. Negative, negative, that's going to be plus 12 divided by 3 is 4. And so that would be the inequality. So a lot of this should be familiar to you. I just wanted to give you a bit of a refresher. This is what they're having you do in all of these problems. They get you to solve it for slope-intercept form, and then they want you to identify the slope and y-intercept. So remember, when we talk about slope-intercept form, the slope-intercept form is named that because that is what it tells us. So when we say slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b, that's because the m is the slope and the b is the y-intercept. Hopefully that is just a reminder to you. You should know this by now, being in Algebra 2. So that means that if I go back up here and looking at this equation, then this is my slope. Slope equals 2/3. And this is my y-intercept is 5. Y equals 5. Or you could also write it as 0, 5. Similarly, in my second problem, 4/3 x, that's my slope, equals 4/3. And my y-intercept equals 5 or 4, sorry. 4 or 0, 4. And so that's all they're asking you to do when they say to find the slope and intercept from that equation. So that's your answers that are going to go here and here. A is not the answer. Same thing in number 2, same thing in number 3, same thing in number 4. So all 4 of these are the exact same idea. You're doing what I did in these examples, and then you're identifying the slope and the y-intercept for those equations. And that is it for lesson 2.